How high will Ashton Genty get drafted tonight? Which other NFL draft picks are going to be pushed up the draft boards? And does Genesis or Revelations truly set the FFPC ADP? Join us tonight on the Season 15 premiere of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour for live pick-by-pick coverage of the first FFPC $250 Classic Leagues of the season, the Genesis and the Revelations Leagues. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. 15 years. This is our 15th year of doing this show. I've had a shorter beard for many of those, but we're here doing it. 15 years. The season premiere tonight. 14 years in the books. Let's embark and make season 15 the best one ever. Coming up on tonight's season premiere, we're going to cover the FFPC $250 classic drafts of the season, the first ones of the year, live pick by pick right here on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you want to connect with us on X, the show is at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman, and always check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. You can post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF Hour as well. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment throughout the show tonight. Thanks to our audio engineer, commissioner, and my best friend Bryce, and of course our producer and mutual friend Rob. We have let's see here, James Hicks, Scott Christian first. Good evening, guys. Oinker, hope you're doing well. He is. Team Porky's in the house, and then of course James Hicks. Good evening, Ferrell, Balky, and Oinker. He says hello, James. Can't wait to hear stories about the draft. Yeah, it was a fun draft this past weekend in Green Bay. And the best show in fantasy football. I certainly appreciate that as well. We got Henry Muto in here. Mile High Luke is hanging out as well. So without further ado, let me just tell you what's going on with the FFPC this week. Pretty much everything that we have is live. FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball tournaments are going on right now. $300,000 grand prize and $100,000 grand prize for the Superflex. That's $125 and $35 respectively. The big news this year, the Best Ball tournament now has a $100,000 runner-up prize. So you don't even have to win the whole thing, and you'll get a six-figure grand prize. Drafts available at 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks as well. Same thing with the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, $1 million grand prize. Those same time frames are going on right now for clocks. The Early Rampage and 7 Bananas promos are live. Main event, slow drafts, started yesterday. It's our flagship event. $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool. The early bird deadline is the final day of this month. Sign up by then, receive $200 off your first team, and be entered into the drawing for the FFPC Pros versus Joes competition that we'll broadcast live here, where you could go up against 5 of your fellow Joes, 6 industry pros, and the winner of that league, free main event entry in 2026. Pick up a Dynasty Start-Up team. I know all the Dynasty guys are super excited. Rookie drafts are going on tomorrow morning. And obviously, if you want to play a startup, you can do that right now. Entry fees range from $100 all the way up to $5,000, 1,800 plus leagues, and none have ever folded in 15 years. That's at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment, share, and get notified each and every time we go live. Without further ado, let's get into it here, ladies and gentlemen. Do I have Ferrell? I don't have Ferrell yet. Ferrell will be joining us shortly. Okay, but I do have this. Let's get into the draft here. And I have it up right now. Hopefully you guys can all see this. I'm going to see if I can do it. Maybe it's better if I do it this way. All right. If that's too small to read, let me know. But that way it's not covered up by the logo. So this is the Genesis draft that we're covering first. I believe, and if you're watching this right now, we have 2 spots left in Revelations. That was supposed to start at the top of the hour with Genesis. It has not filled yet. But if you jump in there, we'll definitely cover the end of that draft too. Once it fills, 2 spots left, and then you can draft live on YouTube tonight. Who wouldn't like that? Let's get into it here tonight. Jake Valite, the Claw, a 26er, a couple of 26ers leading off this draft tonight. He ends up with the first pick. He goes with Jamar Chase. No surprise there. Stud Dynasty, a.k.a. Brent Studebaker, the other 26er. He is going to be sniping. He and Jake are going to be sniping each other back and forth here at the top of the draft. He goes with Bijan Robinson, the first running back off the board at the 102. Laurie Wilson's KC Wolf takes Saquon Barkley, the stud Eagles running back that helped bring them a Super Bowl last year. He goes off the 103 tonight. Running backs are cheap. Boo's dream team. That's Gabriel Gibolino. Gabriel, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. He was cleaning up tonight, and he gets Jahmyr Gibbs. What a cleanup that is at the 104. Brock Bowers, first tight end off the board at the 105. That's John Terry, AJ in the draft room tonight. He takes Bowers, one of 2 tight ends to go in the first round. Not to be confused with John Terry. John Barry's bottom feeders takes Devon Achane as the 4th running back off the board. Devon Achane goes at the 106. Now, a couple of receivers after that. Jason Kulaga selects Justin Jefferson. The second wide receiver chosen tonight goes 6 picks after the first one. CeeDee Lamb to the Dames. That is Greg Chamberlain taking CeeDee Lamb at the 108. Obviously, with the Cowboys not focusing in on a second receiver in the draft like many people thought they would, CeeDee Lamb becomes pretty viable this year. Ashton Genty, we talked about this at the top. Where would he go? He goes at the 109 tonight. Norm Barons takes him. Mr. Steak starts off his team with the rookie from Las Vegas at the 109. Brian Thomas, a 2-year player, goes to Friar Moose Banana Stand. Sharif Abdel Rahman, I believe I'm pronouncing your name right, Sharif. I apologize if I'm not. He takes Brian Thomas at the 110. Trey McBride off the board at the 111 to the hammer himself, Dan Flamholtz. He goes with Trey McBride, the second tight end, off the board tonight. And then to round up the first round tonight, we have Puka Nacua going to Todd Aaron, the mad genius of fantasy football. He goes Nacua as that is the 5th receiver to come off the board tonight. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've wasted enough time. Let's bring him in right now. You know him, you love him. He's the commissioner of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Welcome aboard, Ferrell Elliott. Good Friday evening to you, my friend.
Balky, it's Oaks Friday in Louisville, Kentucky. It's Good Friday, and I must unfortunately start the show by correcting you. You are never wasting any time when you are sharing your wisdom with the audience and our consistent following of Hicks, Christian, Dom Gazzetti, and all the guys that are dropping in and have joined the chat. So how great it is. We're up in Adam an hour early tonight, huh?
An hour early. We'll be doing the Genesis draft. I have a feeling we'll be covering the tail end of the Revelations draft. If it fills, I think it's going to fill. There's only 2 spots left. So we'll get to that later on tonight, and I'll get that draft order here up on the screen. But Ferrell, the first round here, I don't think anything necessarily stands out to me. I guess maybe this isn't even a surprise. Ashton Genty, the first rookie off the board at 109 tonight, your new favorite Raiders running back. He goes at the 109. I think that's an overdraft. Is that where you would be taking him?
I want to see this player's build, but yeah, I like that. It's hard for me to displace Derrick Henry from my lineup, and we had a deep rookie class in running backs. I'll remind everyone, you can confirm it, Balky, but I think Bucky Irvin was a 5th or 6th round pick last year in the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. And Bucky Irvin's here in the 2nd now. And he was draft capital for that player last year was fantastic. And I will remind all the listeners that you were on it earliest and first. So while Genty is the best, he is not the only. That's
right. Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. We're through round 2 here. Todd Aaron goes with Malik Neighbors to pair with his Puka Nacua, one of 3 teams who started receiver tonight. Nacua and Neighbors for Todd Aaron from the 12 hole. Amon-Ra St. Brown joins Dan Flamholtz's team. Trey McBride and Amon-Ra St. Brown. A lot of targets there. Kyron Williams, the 6th running back chosen tonight, goes to Sharif Abdel Rahman to go with Brian Thomas. Nico Collins and Drake London, the pair of receivers off the board, to Norm Barons and Greg Chamberlain, respectively. Then we see Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, a couple of running backs to Jason Kulaga and John Barry. John Terry His AJ team, of course, takes AJ Brown at the 2-0 weight tonight. Jonathan Taylor goes off the board to Boo's dream team. That's Gabriel Gibolino's team. Jonathan Taylor pairing with Jahmyr Gibbs there. Bucky Irving, as Ferrell just said, 5th or 6th round pick last year. He was the 2nd round pick right now tonight. Bucky Irving, 210 to Laurie Wilson's KC Wolf squad, and a couple of receivers round out round number 2. Garrett Wilson to Brian Studebaker, and Ladd McConkey off the board to Jake Belike as the final pick of the 2nd round. We normally go with ADP from Fantasy Mojo, which we're doing tonight. The only difference is, Ferrell, this is a $250 standalone draft. So there are going to be some differences in the ADP. I'm using Big Gorilla ADP, and this is all post-NFL draft. All these drafts have taken place after the NFL draft. FantasyMojo.com, at FantasyMojo. Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros vs. Joe's Challenge. Anytime we cite ADP on the show, it's through him. And I'll tell you this right now. Ashton Genty, running back 4 at the 107. I was thinking it might be too early for Genty. It was a bargain for Norm Barons at the 109, Ferrell. We'll see what happens there going forward. What do you make of, well, I don't want to talk about it yet. Let's talk about the end of the 2nd round here. Garrett Wilson at the 211 catching passes from Justin Fields this year. I've made the case that Fields is actually might be more of an accurate passer than Rodgers is. I've gotten a lot of pushback on that. But what do you make about Garrett Wilson selecting him at the end of the 2nd round this year, Ferrell, knowing that he's got a brand new quarterback, brand new head coach, and a brand new offensive coordinator?
I like all the receivers that were taken after Wilson. Better than Wilson.
Better than Wilson, right.
And the McConkey, there's no comparison.
Between McConkey and Wilson, you take
as far as their fantasy output, they're what will be expected from them, no comparison.
Okay,
because you want to score fantasy points. It doesn't mean that Wilson is not a great receiver, but there's a lot of things that have to be tinkered with in that Jets offense. That, as I recall, out there in LA, the Chargers had it running pretty smoothly towards the end of the year, and they haven't done anything but get better.
I want to go back to the 1st round here, Ferrell. Devon Achane goes off the board at the 106 tonight. His ADP in the Big Gorilla post-NFL draft has been the 203 at running back 6. I don't necessarily view the Achane pick there as an overdraft. I'm a little bit surprised he is slipping to the 203. So even though it's 9 picks above average, I don't mind that pick for John Barry. What do you make of it?
I wouldn't pick any of those guys in front of Henry. And then putting McCaffrey with him is an odd thing. So, no, I don't like it.
You don't like – okay, so the Achane McCaffrey thing is interesting, but Ferrell is not a fan. Okay, we get it. Okay. Let's get through the 3rd round, and we'll bring on our first guest of the evening tonight. Tyreek Hill goes he's not our first guest, by the way.
No, it would be cool, though.
Yeah, not joining the show tonight. Well, maybe he'll drop in. I texted him. I sent him the link. We'll see if Tyreek Hill drops in on the show tonight. He won't.
He's a little camera shy, too.
Oh, yeah, he does not like
he would be more suitable for a call-in.
Well, maybe we'll have to do that. Make it happen, Google. Tyreek Hill, 301 tonight, as Jake Belike starts off with 3 straight receivers from the one hole. Mike Evans off the board to Brent Studebaker after that. A couple more receivers, Terry McLaurin and Jackson Smith and Jigba to Wilson and Gibolino, respectively. That means it was a run of a half round of worth of receivers there, 6 of them in a row. Josh Jacobs, a rainbow start for John Terry as he goes tight end receiver and now running back at the 305. George Kittle joins his real-life teammate, Christian McCaffrey, on the bottom feeder squad owned by John Barry. Kittle at the 306 as tight end 3 tonight. Breece Hall and Chase Brown, a pair of running backs to Jason Kulaga and Greg Chamberlain, 307 and 308, respectively. T. Higgins, the newly minted T. Higgins, at the 309 tonight, followed by Marvin Harrison at the 310. Josh Allen off the board as the first quarterback to Dan Flamholtz at the 311 spot tonight. And it's interesting here. Both turns start off receiver, receiver, receiver. Todd Aaron forcing the issue here. Nakua, Neighbors, and now Rashee Rice at the 312 as we have completed the 3rd round of tonight's Genesis draft. Let's bring on our first guest tonight, Ferrell. No stranger to Kentucky, a guy I had many beers with at the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship last year.
Between the bourbons?
Between the bourbons, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I probably went beer, bourbon. I think that was the pattern we had Saturday night when we were hanging out with him. It was Dom Gazzetti, myself, and then this guy right now, the Hammer, drafting from the 11 spot tonight. He is Dan Flamholtz. Dan, welcome to the broadcast, man.
There he is.
Thanks, guys. How you guys doing?
He is the head of the Bald-Headed Brotherhood, and I love him just like a brother.
So,
But
Dan,
I'll never be invited to the Brotherhood.
So Dan, you have just made your pick in the 4th round. A true, like I said, John Terry had a rainbow start. You really did here. Tight end, receiver, quarterback, running back. I don't know what your normal draft strategy is. Do you like to be that spread out as far as positions go in the first few rounds, or was this just what the draft handed to you tonight?
It's really just what the draft handed to me. I don't necessarily go into the draft or any draft, expecting to get one player at each position or anything like that. I just kind of take the best player that I feel value-wise is the best choice.
And there was some good value there. I mean, the thing is, I used to say, and Dan, I don't know how you feel about this. I used to say when we cover pros versus Joes, I'm like, you can have an elite quarterback, you can have an elite tight end, you can't have both. I have seen that trend change over the last couple of years where I've seen people go early tight end and early quarterback, and they still manage to cobble together a really good squad. And I think that's the thing that you have tonight, this kind of luxury, knowing that you don't really have to focus on tight end until later unless you want to. You don't have to focus on quarterback until the end of the draft. And again, this isn't best ball, so you could just roll with Josh Allen and not have a backup quarterback and go with that. And you can just stock up wide receiver and running back here, which I think is maybe this is more of an advantageous method to draft from the 11 spot, more so than when you're in the middle and you can just kind of scoop up whatever. But like now that you're at sort of the end or almost the end, you're able to just pick up value with running backs and receivers, and you don't really have to worry about those other two positions too much.
I agree. And it just the way it's shaped out. I mean, I know that it's unlikely for this to happen, but I was really high on McBride because he's not too far behind Bowers in my rankings.
Wait a minute. What are we talking about there? Somebody's not far behind Bowers? Well, Bowers in a class alone, even with Kennedy.
Okay. He might be in a class alone, but Dan, it seems like the secondary class for Trey McBride, not that far off from Bowers' class, in your opinion.
Exactly. I certainly have Bowers ranked higher, but I'm really high on McBride as well. I mean, he caught 111 balls last year.
Good number.
And people, I think there's going to be some upside with touchdowns. He only scored 2 last year. I think this year he's probably going to be good for maybe 6 to 8, you would think.
Yeah.
And the fact that he scored his 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks of last season, I'm hoping he carries that momentum forward and keeps that TD streak going.
Keep that streak alive. Mile High Luke Balky's got a good question.
Yeah, no. So here's I want to lead in with this. Jake Belike, who's drafting in the 1 spot tonight, he said, Trey McBride, Amon-Ra St. Brown, great start. Not sure what happened in the 3rd and 4th. Smiley face. So he's ribbing you a little bit. And then you got Mile High Luke saying, curious on your take, why Omarion Hampton over Najee Harris, who you could have had there. Dan, what was the thinking behind adding the second rookie running back off the board tonight here in the 4th round for you?
I think Hampton's the better running back.
Wow,
so,
there you go.
So if he's the better running back, I just think eventually, maybe by week 3 or 4, he's going to get the majority of the carries. He's more explosive. Both running backs can catch the ball, but the way the Chargers offense is designed, they like to run the ball a lot. Mm-hmm. And with that ball controlled offense, I think they both can get, their 15 to 20 touches. Maybe not exactly that every week. But I just think Omarion Hampton is going to, I think he'll be good for 1,200, 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns. And I think if he does that, he'll be worth the 4th round pick.
And Harris would be the complimentary or second back who would still put up big stats. And the one thing that I would add to that, Dan, you've got a head coach there that loves Harris, but he's the same head coach that will play the best player. Will play the player to make the difference. So I think you've got a lot of logic. You're following up your beliefs, and I love it.
I will say this too, a couple of things. Omarion Hampton was drafted by the Chargers after they had already signed Harris. If Harris was signed after they drafted Hampton, okay, maybe we can make a case for Harris here. And the other thing, too, is you look at that contract that Najee Harris signed, 1 year, just over $5 million. That does not sound like a huge motivation for the coaching staff to get Najee Harris used a lot in there. Then you have Omarion Hampton, who has first-round draft capital, and you're like, okay, I could totally see the motivation for getting that guy on the field. We'll get into the Travion Henderson conversation at some point, maybe not tonight, but that's how I kind of view that situation with Ramondre Stevenson and Henderson right now. They knew what they had in Harris. They knew what they had in Stevenson, and they still went out and utilized significant draft capital.
And guys, the rest of our drafters thinks you really know something because Harris is still off the board.
Yeah, he's still available. And well, I mean, this is a 12-team closed league. Obviously, you don't have to go, swinging for home runs as much as you would if this was a big gorilla or if this was a main event that you can play right now at myffpc.com. It's a little bit different. And I think like swinging for doubles, I think a lot of times, I think it was the Vikings GM was talking about this at the NFL draft. He's like, with a draft this deep, all this talent, we don't need to swing for home runs. Let's just take 4 doubles, right? 4 guys who fit our culture, who are good football players, and we'll go from there. And I think that's how you can build good lineups here. Because once you get to the playoffs anyway, Dan, you know this, anything can happen. Just get there, and hopefully you're loaded and your team performs those last few weeks.
That's right. And I really think that Hampton, as the season goes on, will be I'm not going to say, 80-20, but probably 70-30 split in that backfield would be my guess.
Yeah, Ferrell, I could totally see that. I'm not saying that's most likely, but if that happened at the last couple months of the season, that would not surprise me all that much. I have said for years on this show, it's one of my catchphrases, this is a young man's game. And granted, Najee Harris is still young. He's got some tread on the tires. What I will say about Harris is he is pretty consistent. I think he's gotten 1,000 yards every single year in this league, but not much more than that, which is fine. I mean, you know what you're getting with him. Hampton's that mystery box. He's the second door where, like, okay, you could have Najee Harris or you could have Omarion Hampton. And Hampton,
or but Dan could have both of them the way things are going.
I don't know if you like Dan. Have you contemplated that at all?
Don't say it, Dan, because guys are listening. Don't give it away. I'm just trying to have you give it away.
I think if the value is there, I'll consider it, but it's not something that I normally do. I normally don't like to take 2 backs from the same team. I'm not one that usually handcuffs my players. I usually like to go with another starter from another team if possible.
I took Franco Harris and Rocky Blyer in a draft once.
You weren't playing fantasy football back then, were you?
I guess it was something else. I don't know.
You probably hung out with Franco Harris.
Your baseball analogy confused me. But I can't, because I used a basketball analogy 3 weeks ago. I can't give you the hitting doubles thing. I can't complain too much. The only thing worse than a baseball analogy would be a basketball analogy.
Yeah, we'll stay away from those tonight. It will be a slam dunk to stay away from basketball analogies. So you're on deck.
You see what he did there, Dan?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. You are on deck here, Dan, from coming up at the 5'11" spot. Like I said, you can go any which way. I don't think you'll go tight end, although going tight end here, grabbing the 7th one off the board, maybe that forced the issue with some other teams. There goes Najee here. The dream is over. Najee Harris.
Well, you want to see my pick?
Yes, go ahead. Make it right now. McBride, St. Brown, Allen, Hampton in the first 4 rounds. And now another rookie, R.J. Harvey, the 22nd running back off the board here. R.J. Harvey pairs with Omarion Hampton in an all-rookie backfield. The Diaper Dandies, another basketball analogy, joining Josh Allen in the backfield for the Hammer here. You're back on the clock again. We'll talk about the Harvey pick in a second here. What are you thinking now at the 6:02, Dan?
I'm looking at the wide receivers right now. I like the fact that I got 2 running backs. I know they're both rookies, but I think they're both going to be major contributors very early on in the season. I was actually tempted to take RJ Harvey in the 4th round, but I thought I would be able to get him in the 5th, and I was glad I waited, and I got the value there in round 5.
Jake Belike is screaming at you. Olave right now. He is screaming at you in the YouTube chat. Take Olave, Chris Olave.
You know what? I'm gonna go with the young guy here.
Oh boy. There's a lot of spiciness here. There's a lot of Rome Odunze goes to Dan Flamholtz here at the 602. Okay, let's talk about the Harvey pick first, Dan. You draft him as your second running back, your second rookie running back. This is a guy, we talked about this, Ferrell, on the Wednesday show last week with Brad Larson, saying that there is a chance that RJ Harvey could be a top 10 running back this year if the Broncos take him in the second round. And that's exactly what happened. Harvey goes in the second round. You take him at the 5'11 here. What I don't want to ask about his ceiling here, Dan, but what type of season do you think Harvey's in for as far as yards and touchdowns go?
I would say that he's probably going to get between, my guess would be 700, 900 yards rushing and maybe another 400 to 600 yards receiving.
Ooh.
I think 50 to 60 catches isn't out of the question based on how a running back with his skill set has been used in Peyton's offense in the past with, going back to Reggie Bush and Alvin Kamara. And, with the touchdowns, he may not get the goal line work. Maybe, one of the estimate may get goal line work, but he's an explosive player. So if he gets touches inside the red zone from anywhere, let's say from the 20-yard line to the 5-yard line, he could get plenty of touchdowns from those distances as well.
And it's like I say, I said it was kind of a spicy pick. 5'11 is his big gorilla ADP right now. So you got him right at sticker price on that. But the next pick, Rome Odunze, is interesting. Again, this is not a player you overdrafted. This is right around his ADP. Odunze, I think, is interesting, Dan, because it's a new head coach in Chicago. It's a new offense. Technically, Ben Johnson does not have any allegiance to DJ Moore. He doesn't have any allegiance to Rome Odunze, and the Bears went ahead and drafted Luther Burden in the second round. You are still a believer in Odunze with Ben Johnson's offense, though.
I am. I think Ben Johnson will be creative and figure out a way to get all those guys the ball. I think, Odunze is very talented. And I think also Caleb Williams should get better in that offensive scheme. And I just think that Odunze will get his opportunities this year. I just hope, I hope he makes the most of them.
And what's interesting with Odunze, let's say the Bears don't take Burden. I wonder what his ADP would be at right now, because there is a lot of people when we opened up drafts in January and February that were drafting Odunze based, just assuming he was going to have this second-year breakout, which he still might have. But I feel like the drafting of Burden kind of knocked him down a little bit, rightly or wrongly. I'd love to see where Odunze would be going right now in this type of format if Burden wasn't on the team. But Dan, you put together a very enticing team here. There's a lot of targets with McBride, St. Brown. You can throw in Hampton and Harvey in that, obviously Odunze. I think this is going to be a very fun squad to watch this year and a very fun squad to watch for the remainder of the draft. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and making a couple of picks tonight. Am I going to see you in Louisville in August?
You will. Yep,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Hopefully they won't have to kick out any weird female patrons that were hanging out with us like they did last year. But it's still a great time. I had a blast. We'll have to do it again.
I did
August.
as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's Dan Flamholtz, ladies and gentlemen.
See you, Dan.
The Hammer.
I would like to intercede right now with a service announcement that your and Dan's activities were occurring outside the showroom where the fantasy football was taking place. I just want to distance myself from whatever you're referencing there, Balky. See, a guy like you gets out and has a big weekend at the draft, and then you just start throwing around all kinds of secrets. And Jake was trying to sell everybody on Olave, which I would have been a buyer too, Jake. And it is Sutton, Flowers, Judy, and Waddle. Olave is likely to catch more balls than all those guys. But definitely Flowers.
I want to, and my apologies to Derek Greer. I meant to put this on the screen.
There he is.
When you actually asked this, Derek, is Hammer in any dynasty leagues as well? Yes, Hammer plays in a ton of FFPC Dynasty Leagues. So you'll definitely see him. Big day for him tomorrow. Big day for all the FFPC Dynasty players. Vince Staffolino posted this. I'll post it again. We need one more player for the Revelations draft. As soon as you join that draft, we'll generate a draft order, and then you'll be drafting up and running here in the next few minutes. Until then, let's cover Genesis here, Ferrell, and we'll go through the round we just went through here. Chris Godwin goes off to Todd Aaron at the 601. That's his fourth receiver in the first 6 rounds. This was a receiver run. We saw Odunze go to Flamholtz. Sutton goes to Friar Moose Banana Stand. That's Sharif Abdel Rahman. Zay Flowers to Norm Barons. Jerry Jeudy is the third receiver drafted by Greg Chamberlain. We got a backfield loading up here for Jason Kulaga, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, and now James Conner at the 606. You mentioned Waddle and Olave to Barry and Terry. David Montgomery to Boo's Dream Team. Gabriel Gibolino takes him as his number 4 running back. Jameson Williams, the real-life teammate of David Montgomery, goes off at the 610. Aaron Jones and Isaiah Pacheco wrap things up to Studebaker and, of course, Valike at the end. That is through. We are through 6 rounds here. I want to get to our next guest as they're coming fast and furious here. He is drafting from the 2-hole tonight. He just took Jawan Jennings at the 702. We're gonna have a conversation about that. He is the stud Dynasty 26er himself, Mr. Brent Studebaker. Brent, welcome aboard, man.
Balky, Ferrell, how are y'all?
There he is.
We're doing good. We're happy to have you on. Drafting at the 2 spot tonight, next to your buddy Jake. What's that been like? Have you guys been sniping each other here? I know you're 26ers. There's something to be said. There's an allegiance there, but I think you guys are cutthroat when it comes to it. And it comes to this. That's probably why you guys have both been very successful over the years as well.
Yeah, he's got me a few. I was hoping to get Garrett Wilson and Ladd. I actually traded him Garrett Wilson in a Dynasty League, so I was thinking that's who he was targeting, and I was hoping he would leave Ladd and McConkey for me, but he didn't. I kind of figured it.
Do you have any response to Ferrell Elliott's slander of your Garrett Wilson pick at the 211?
They're going to be down a lot. Justin Fields is going to throw it. And they got the connection from college. So
I can buy that.
That's the only real reason why I can see him. He burned a lot of people last year.
Yeah.
That whole offense did, but the Jets are going to be the Jets. They're going to suck. So they're going to throw the ball. And in all reality, in season, I think they're going to trade Breece Hall if they're out of it to get something back. Being its final year, I thought it could have happened during the draft, but they're not going to trade Wilson.
It's regarding the Hall thing. I never would have thought that was possible. And then you think about how Breece Hall was used towards the end of last season with Braylon Allen getting in there a lot. And then Isaiah Davis, of all people, getting in there a lot too.
Isaiah got a chance. Balky, the magic of your ability to pull numbers out of the air. How many touchdowns Rodgers throw last year?
Oh, it was in the high 20s, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to look it up right now.
How many did Wilson grab?
So Aaron Rodgers last year threw 28 touchdowns.
28 to 11 picks, I think.
It was correct. It was 11 picks for Aaron Rodgers last year.
So how many touchdowns Wilson get?
Garrett Wilson caught 7 of those 28. Yeah.
All right.
Now, and I'll say this too, and I feel like sometimes I think and I'm with you, Brent, on Garrett Wilson burning us. But if you look at what he's done over the course of his career, rookie year, 83 catches, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns. His second year, 95 catches, 1,000 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Last year, 101 catches, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Sometimes I feel like based on how we draft these guys, we're expecting more. And then when they just have a good season, we're like, I shouldn't have made that pick. But he's putting up numbers. I just feel like maybe we're just overdrafting him, and maybe we're expecting too much of Garrett Wilson. I don't know.
I think a big thing with that is once Devontae Adams got there, Rodgers and him, that's his buddy. He was going to try to feed him the rock.
That's true.
That pushed his numbers a little down as well.
Mike Evans is back for more this year. You take him at the 302. Normally I'd be nervous about a guy that size and that age. He's showing no signs of slowing down, Brent. I don't know if you own him in any of your dynasty leagues. How are you treating Evans in dynasty?
I don't have him in any dynasty. He's hit the curve for me.
Okay.
But in a redraft league, he's guaranteed you 1,000 yards. We don't know when Godwin's going to come back. Kate Otten, he's your 8 yards and in touchdown. I'm going to roll with Evans and, sit back and watch him get his 1,000 yards. That's what he does every single year.
So the pick after that was Kamara, and then you go with DK Metcalf at the 502. Now that's about a half round earlier than what his ADP is, but you knew if you wanted Metcalf, he wasn't coming back to you at the end of the 6th round. Are you drafting Metcalf based on your belief that either Rodgers or Cousins will be the quarterback for the Steelers this year and not Will Howard or Mason Rudolph?
100% DK Metcalf will hand Aaron Rodgers his belt when he gets to Pittsburgh. They're still talking. He's been working out with Metcalf. I think that's the dream spot for Rodgers. Tomlin's got to do something because his fan base is all over him.
Aaron Jones was the pick here in the 6-11 for you. 3rd running back to go with Bijan Robinson and Alvin Kamara. What did you make of the Jordan Mason trade and then the Jordan Mason extension for the Vikings? I feel like, Jones was awesome last year. He had probably his most efficient year last year. He had his most touches last year. The Vikings obviously did not seem to want to protect or feel the need to protect Jones the way the Packers did. But with the addition of Mason this year, you're not scared off by it.
I am, but I'm gonna trust. I'm gonna trust Minnesota. You're kind of setting up one of my next 2 picks, hopefully. Mason's definitely on my radar to handcuff, but I think Aaron Jones. I mean, look what he did throughout the year. He was steady for him. I think Mason may come in and be a 3rd down back, but this is Jones' last year. They had to get a running back in there for after this year because I don't feel Aaron Jones will be back. It's going to be Mason's backfield.
I do believe, and I haven't seen anything from Vince, I do believe Revelations just filled.
Yes, sir.
It did. Okay, perfect. So we'll have coverage of that coming up in a little bit.
And the tight end board is getting thin, sir.
Yes.
I'm watching it as we get to you, and I'm saying, fellas, give our man a break here, for God's sake.
So in the 8th round, and Brent is in the hole right now with Gabriel Gibolino just taking Zach Charbonnet, and now he's on deck with Laurie Wilson up. The picks we saw in this round from the 802 to the 806, they're all tight ends. Tucker Kraft, Jonnu Smith, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, and David Njoku all go 5 tight ends right in a row here in the 8th round. I believe Brent is one of 2 teams without a tight end. Doesn't mean you have to take one right now.
Sure does.
Well, not necessarily, but we'll see what you do here, Brent. You are on the clock. You have 4 receivers. You have 3 running backs. Who's the pick here at the 8-11 for you?
Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid will be the selection. Ferrell was right. Ferrell was 100% right. You never doubt an Elliott. And
yes,
you should.
He's a Balky. Don't forget, he is a 26er.
That's true. Ferrell Elliott is a 26er.
The most, my dad knew the governor soon after I showed up. I was probably the youngest Kentucky colonel ever to get a chart. That and my status as a 26er are the 2 proudest accomplishments of my life. And there's no documentation of the 26er, but public distribution of it, like Greg just gave me, that just makes me sit up straight.
Ferguson, Brian Robinson, and Jake Ferguson are the picks for Jake Belike on the.
That's who I was hoping you'd take was Ferguson.
We're going to talk with Jake in just a minute here, but Brent, you are back on the clock here. You've got your tight end. You could go with another tight end here. You could grab a quarterback if you'd like. A lot of different directions you could go. What is the way you're going at the 902?
I'm debating if I'm going to take Likely because I really don't think Mark Andrews is going to be back in that offense. It's in between him or, I could grab Mason now. It's a little early, but he's not going to make it back to me.
Yeah, yeah. I would say it's like 50-50, in my opinion. 50-50. No, it's not 50-50. I would say it's more like 20% chance of him making it back to you. If you want Mason, you'd have to take him here.
Yep.
And the pick is in. The commissioner has announced it.
Yep.
Jordan
Mason
will be the pick there. You have locked up the Vikings backfield. You've also locked up 4 running backs, 4 receivers here too, and then Dalton Kincaid. How big do you? I mean, I know Kincaid. We were all aboard with him last year, and then he kind of let us down. How big of a need do you still feel tight end is for you coming up at this 10-11 turn?
I think it's big. I've got one guy that I'm keying in on. He's a sleeper, so I can't make his name out yet.
Yeah, let's don't do that.
But if he falls to me, good. If he doesn't, there's 1 or 2 out there that I can add later on in the draft that I'll be comfortable with.
Brent, go ahead.
I like Kincaid. He burned me last year in Genesis because I had Kincaid and I had Josh Allen. Kincaid didn't do nothing. I'm hoping his 3rd year he gets back more into his 1st year. And we'll just have to see how it goes with him. I mean, I waited long enough. He's, to me, the most upset at the time. So you're going to roll the dice if you wait this long in a tight end league.
Without giving anything away for this draft, Brent, do you have any dynasty sleepers? And you probably won't be taking them tomorrow because rookie drafts don't take one day in the FFPC. They'll take a while. Do you have any like sleepers in your rookie draft that you'll be looking at grabbing maybe round 3 and beyond?
I like Jaden Blue for Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
He had a little bit of fumbling issues at Texas, but he runs big and he can catch the ball. You got Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. He can beat them out, in my opinion. And then, I mean, if you look at his some of his numbers from the combine, I mean, he lights it up. He's got Devon Achane. He's got the speed. So that's what you're shooting for in rookie drafts in the 3rd round. You got to find that hidden gem, and that's the one guy I'm targeting.
How would you grade, final question for you, how would you grade your draft in Genesis thus far?
I would say probably a C.
Okay.
I'm old, but this isn't a dynasty league. I got to go off of Kamara, and hopefully, he's going to be their number 1 weapon on that team. And then, keep Aaron Jones healthy. It's going to depend on, I need Garrett Wilson. I'm going to have to call Ferrell back and tell him he was wrong on Garrett Wilson.
I hope you do, my friend. And, Balky, don't you want, considering that I'm drafting against Stud Dynasty, wouldn't you like to ask him a follow-up question about some other sleepers that he might have in the draft that in Dynasty drafts?
That you would be looking at getting.
Yeah, a couple, 2 or 3 more wouldn't hurt if you just.
Well, listen. I don't want to twist Brent's arm here, but if he wants to give us some more,
I was hoping you could do it a little more gingerly than that. But now the proverbial cat has been released from the bag, so now we,
The tip that I've got that I'm going, I don't have a lot of picks this year. This draft isn't deep. I would trade out and get future ones.
Okay. Well, there you go.
That's ultimately what I'm trying to do and where I got round 1 picks.
Those 26er guys think differently. And also, Balky, you'd be happy to know that 26ers have thrown together some money to hire a detective and go find the professor. So,
good.
Yeah,
yes.
We're trying to, we've got a lot of things going on over in the 26ers.
Yeah, that's good. We need to find out what's going on with the professor. Brent, you are a gentleman. You are a scholar. Always look forward to our conversations. Thanks for hopping aboard tonight. Good luck the rest of the way in Genesis. Good luck in your rookie drafts this year, and good luck in all of your FFPC drafts. Thanks so much, man.
I appreciate y'all.
That is Brent Studebaker, ladies and gentlemen. He's drafting out of the 2-hole tonight and doing a good job as we just.
Hey, Balky, I know you have some catching up that you would like to do as the preeminent show host in fantasy football. But I'm sitting here looking at something. Number 3, that's Lori's team.
Number 3 is Lori's team, Casey Wolf. Yes.
That is my favorite team in this draft.
Really?
Yes, it is.
So I'm looking at it right now. We have Barkley and Irving, the first two picks, McLaurin, Worthy, Kelsey, Jameson Williams, Patrick Mahomes. That's what I was looking for after the Worthy Kelsey picks. Mahomes, Warren, and then Likely, who Brent was considering at the 902, and she drafts Likely at the 903. Second tight end. She already's got, 3 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, and a quarterback. I like the team construction. I like the balance here. Gives her the opportunity to do a lot of things here in the second half of the draft. Why do you like it so much, Ferrell?
I don't necessarily think that everyone is right on Andrews. I think he recovers. We talked about that last week. However, Likely is developing a career. They're going to get him on the field some way. So his play is independent of Andrews to me because I think he's in a lot of ways a slot receiver. Jaylen Warren, whatever happens, he's got to be relied on that's a good plug and play running back. To me, she has the number 1 running back in all of football and the number 1 youth running back in all of football, the youngest guy that I like the most. So we saw what Worthy did in the Super Bowl. McLaurin's not getting anything but better. Everybody's written off Kelsey. That's why she got him as such a bargain pick. And, old Whiskey Bill there, we talked about him last week. And, if any quarterback, if anyone asks you who's the quarterback that's going to have a bounce back year, nobody's saying Aaron Rodgers.
No one is. You are right. The other thing I think is interesting about Warren, because I think some of the shine went off him. And Ferrell, I don't know how you felt about this. I never really thought he was going to be the guy.
No, I didn't either.
In Pittsburgh. But with the addition of Johnson, how often do we see it where high stakes players are taking the high value touches? What are the high value touches in the backfield? They're the catches. I don't know how many catches Caleb Johnson has. Quite frankly, I don't know how good of a pass catcher he's going to be at the NFL level. You know who I do know is a good pass catcher at the NFL level? Jaylen Warren. And I know that they will trust him. And I feel like even though they added Caleb Johnson, I think the early third, I want to say, or mid third, something like that. I still like Jaylen Warren this year, and I think you're right about that. I did want to ask you, we're going to get to our next guest in a second. What do you still like the Worthy pick, even with Rashee Rice coming back?
Oh, yes.
That's interesting. Okay.
I was present for the Super Bowl.
Right, yes, you were. Let's bring him on, ladies and gentlemen, right now. He just made a couple of picks, and he's going to sit back, relax, and watch how the board comes to him in the 12th round. He is drafting number 1 tonight. He is the Claw. He is a fellow 26er, as Brent Studebaker and Ferrell Elliott are as well. It's the 26er triumvirate tonight with Ferrell, Brent, and now Jake Valike. Jake, welcome aboard, man. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight.
Ferrell, Eric, how you guys doing?
Doing good. How you feeling about your team 11 picks in?
It's all right. I made the last pick in honor of Ferrell. I know he loves Pittman, so I'm like, if I'm going to be on the show, I got to appease the host a little bit.
Well, but possibly you could have waited till the 14th round. Balky, you got an Armani on what Pittman is now?
Yeah, Pittman in the big gorilla. Again, this is all post-NFL draft. Wide receiver 51 at the 10:07.
Okay, well, see, I'm already burying Pittman. That's the way they treat the player. You got him right at sticker value, which is a very, very depressed value. Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, I know he's got a back thing going on, but it sounds like that might be a non-issue. And
yeah, your 5th receiver drafted here is going to catch 100 balls. So congratulations.
Well, and I think the back thing to me does not worry me as much as the
quarterback.
Well, the quarterback, obviously, that's number 1. But I think about Josh Downs' presence on this team. I'm not worried about Adonai Mitchell. Quite frankly, I'm not all that concerned with Tyler Warren, at least year 1. But Downs, that's the type of guy that because they were, and Ferrell and I talked about this last Wednesday, they were fairly balanced as far as scoring and catches and targets last year. But I wonder if Downs takes a step forward and maybe Pittman takes a little bit of a step back. That's I guess my secondary concern after the quarterback thing.
I mean, it's definitely possible. It might be a rotisserie there, but it's funny you mentioned Warren in redraft. I really prefer Warren over Loveland, but in Dynasty, I definitely flop it where I like Loveland for the long term. But I think Warren might have a decent season this year. I was kind of disappointed I wasn't able to draft him tonight, but I'm sure I'll have other opportunities.
So say that again. Warren is your tight end redraft pick, but Loveland is your pick in Dynasty.
Yeah, out of the two rookies. Yeah,
out of the two rookies, right?
The two big rookies, I should say. I mean, there's other tight ends in there, but I think they're kind of like the two top dogs this year. But,
So why is it different for redraft and Dynasty between those two guys? If I could just have you explain that to everybody.
Well, I think Warren, like, it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be clear. He's gonna kind of come in there right away and have a good opportunity. There's not much in front of him. Loveland's got Komet. He's got DJ Moore. He's got the new guy they drafted. He's got Odunze and an uncertainty at quarterback with Caleb. I mean, everybody's just assuming he's going to be great this year, but he had a lot of weapons and talent around him last year, and he didn't do much. So I think it's still a little up in the air with him. So a lot of uncertainties there, and new coach, to be honest. I mean, who knows how that's going to go?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, and Loveland just turned 21 years old. He's a young
and he's very young.
Yeah,
correct.
He's 6'5". He's a physical specimen of 250 maybe. Hell, he's not even through growing.
He's not. He's going to be 6'6", 300 pounds, and running a 4.5 40. It's going to be insane. You guys have never seen anything like it. We talked with Brent right before this, Jake. I'm sure you saw. He said you got him on a couple of picks since you guys are drafting in the 1 spot and 2 spot respectively. Did Brent take any of your guys here? Did he snipe you on any picks this evening?
Not so much. I mean, I might have considered Kincaid, but I was pretty glad to get Ferguson there. I was kind of hoping to get him a little later, but once that tight end run hit, I had to scoop him up because he was kind of like one of my targets. I just think he's going to get a lot of volume this year. He's not the greatest player in the world, but there's not much else besides CD there. And I think it's going to be very concentrated there in Dallas. And I actually seriously thought about taking CD at the number 1 pick. And for 2 reasons. I think he's going to get a ton of volume. And then kind of where T. Higgins is falling in ADP is that 2-3 turn, and then I wouldn't have to have Chase and Higgins on the same team. So I was kind of targeting Higgins, thinking about targeting Higgins softly, but I'm happy with Chase, and I'm happy Ladd and Tyreek hit. When Brent took Wilson, I was, as much as I do like Wilson, I was kind of relieved because for redraft, I do prefer Ladd, and I was kind of in between Tyreek and JSN, but Tyreek just, he's Tyreek, and I know he's got his issues this offseason, but he's still a super talent, so it's hard to pass up on him.
Yeah, that was my next question with regards to Tyreek Hill. There's still talk. I don't know how strong the whispers are right now, Jake, that he could be released. And if that's the case, if he does get released, you would think that whoever picks him up is going to still feature him quite prominently in their offense. He's not like sort of the afterthought part of his career, right?
You would think anybody bringing him in, right? They're not going to, you would hope a team like the Browns wouldn't bring him in.
Right.
But you would think he still has enough talent where he can kind of dictate he's going to go to like a winning team,
if he even gets released, and he may,
right.
Maybe not. I think maybe I'm burying the lead here. The bigger question is, what we saw last year with Mike McDaniel wanting to keep Tunga Vailoa upright. We saw a huge emphasis placed on Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane in the passing game, and Waddle and Hill. And I know Hill was dealing with the wrist thing, and he was dealing with some other stuff as well. But maybe that's the biggest question we have about Tyreek Hill. Are the Dolphins going to get back to that freewheeling Tunga Vailoa pumping the ball downfield to Hill and Waddle? That's what we want to see as Hill and Waddle owners this season.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainties there, and it don't. I mean, God only knows. From my perspective, what do I know? But it almost seemed like McDaniels was kind of losing control of that team a little bit.
Oh,
I mean, maybe that, maybe that, like, the quirky style is kind of wearing out there. I don't know, but it's just odd how they seem to, like, fade in the big spots every year. And then Tyreek popping off, and I don't know. I mean, it's
right.
It could get very messy there. I could definitely see that.
So looking at the rest of your draft here, Jake, was the plan to start off with? I mean, I guess you can't really plan to start off with 3 receivers from the one hole, right? You have to take what the draft gives you. But you had no qualms going with 5 pass catchers and going 0 RB. You're pounding, obviously, the running backs now with Pacheco, Johnson, Robinson, and Spears. Did you have an inkling that you were going to go 0 RB tonight?
I kind of did. The only one I would have really considered would have been JT if he would have come on the 2-3 wrap, but it really wasn't too interested in Bucky. I mean, if CMC would have fell, but that's kind of a dream.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of thought I would go 3 wide receiver because I kind of had in the back of my mind Checo and Brian Robinson and one of the Tennessee guys. And that fell really nicely. So I don't think ADP's really caught up to Pacheco and Brian Robinson yet. So that they're pushed down the board a little bit. So that kind of worked in my favor.
I'm gonna let Jake. You're on the clock right now with the final pick of the 12th round and then the first pick of the 13th round. I'm gonna let you decide here. I want to remind everybody. Jake already has 5 receivers on his team: Chase McConkey, Hill, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman. He's got the 4 running backs in Pacheco, Caleb Johnson, Brian Robinson, Tyjae Spears, the 2 tight ends in Hockenson and Ferguson. I want to ask you about Brian Robinson in a second. With your first pick, the 58th receiver off the board tonight, with the final pick of the 12th round, you go with Darnell Mooney. You're on the clock at the 13:01. Who's the pick going to be here, Jake?
Oh, good God. There's nobody left.
You got 8 more rounds.
Jake.
You got 8 more rounds.
Come on, Jake. Don't let me down, buddy. Don't be saying that.
Eric, what do you think about Marshawn Lloyd? Is he going to do anything this year?
I like Lloyd. I think everybody's sleeping on him. The Packers did nothing with running back in the draft. They added a pretty good undrafted free agent, but I don't know if he's going to supplant Chris Brooks or Emmanuel Wilson. Think about how we were all falling all over ourselves last year in Dynasty and, quite frankly, redraft with Lloyd. I think he had some freak stuff. He had like appendicitis that knocked him out for like the last month of the season or whatever. It was all this freak stuff. I could be wrong. I could be hurt with Marshawn Lloyd, but that's a player I'm still believing in this year. And I also don't think Josh Jacobs stays as healthy this season as he did last year. Packers went with a massive guard, both in free agency and in the second round of the draft, just kind of supplementing, like, look, we can be a power running team. We did it last year, and now we're reinforcing it to be even more so this year. And if that's the case, I don't believe Jacobs is healthy for all 17 games. Lloyd's going to factor in there. So I like that pick in the 13th round. I
don't know if I should have taken Mooney there, but I kind of had a recollection that he was good last year. I don't know. Maybe
I love the Jake recollection.
So you mentioned, Jake, that ADP hasn't caught up on Brian Robinson yet, and I'm totally with you. He is not an exciting pick. But when you think about the Commanders trading for Laramie Tunsil, right? They traded for Deebo Samuel. They're doing all this upgrading of the offensive line and the offensive weapons. You know what they didn't do? Make a significant investment into that backfield. And if you're going to have the corpse of Austin Eckler as the biggest threat to Brian Robinson on that team this year, man, at that 8-9 turn, I love that pick. I think it's fantastic. The Commanders' offense should take another big step forward. People are sleeping on him. And the fact that you got him as your number 3 running back, that is a chef's kiss pick right there.
Yeah, I think he's a little undervalued right now, and I think he'll rise. I like Eckler, but like you said, he's not, he's what, 30, 31 years old maybe, or yeah. I don't know, but he's getting up there and a lot of, miles on the tire. Yeah, I think Robinson is a pretty good value this year. They're going to have a good offense. He's got the potential to score a lot of touchdowns. So cross cross my fingers and see what happens. So
Austin Eckler will turn 30 2 weeks from tomorrow, guys. 2 weeks from tomorrow, he will be a 30-year-old.
Trying to age the Austin Eckler.
Right, yes.
You know, Austin's brother Wyatt was in the draft this year. Went undrafted.
Did you hear the story, Ferrell, of the talent that the Dizzle Dave Gerzak scouted in his gym's locker room?
I did not.
Dizzle was working out the day of the draft on Thursday at his local gym.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy in there, a gentleman who was doing like these short sprints and, and he was talking with his fellow, Dizzle was talking with his fellow gym cohorts in there about how he was going to the draft in Green Bay that night.
Dizzle's very sociable guy.
And yes, and Dizzle said, look at this guy. He should be in the draft with the sprints and the lifting that he was doing. And the guy said, actually, I am in the draft. And he's like, what are you talking about? His name is Alex Lippert. He's like a 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver from Lawrence University, all conference. Was hoping to be an undrafted free agent. I don't believe he signed with anybody. But Dizzle was pretty proud of himself that even in his own gym's locker room, he could spot NFL-level talent.
Dizzle knows talent.
Yeah, he does. He does. Big quarterback run here. Jake, how concerning is that for you? 17 quarterbacks off the board. You don't have one yet.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I was hoping
you've got a league winner still out there, and that's all I'm going to say.
I was hoping Stroud would come back.
He's not going to.
No go.
There's a guy that'll save you, Jake.
Yeah, there's a couple out there.
So I have done this before. I think Matt Kelly, I told him this when I was on his podcast a couple of years ago. I said, I like to wait on quarterback to the point of being a dick about it. And you are being a dick about it at this point with 18 quarterbacks off the board. I've been in this situation. I've been in this situation before, and I just panic. Like if it comes back to me in the 14th, 15th round, I'm panicking. I'm taking 2 quarterbacks. Is that the path that you think you're going to take, or the fact that so many teams? I mean, you got Laurie Wilson with 2 quarterbacks. You got John Terry with 2 quarterbacks. Jason Kalaga has 2. Greg Chamberlain has 2. Norm Barons has 2. I mean, like so many teams have 2 quarterbacks here. Can you afford to go, I'll take 1 quarterback here, but then I might wait till the 16, 17 turn to grab my second one?
I mean, I don't mind grabbing, Lawrence is still there, Stafford, even.
Hey, don't be saying those names. Don't be saying
even Bryce.
Jake is not superstitious.
I could stack Tua with Hill.
Well, really, what's going to really set the chat room in fire is that you're going to stack Pittman with Richardson. That's what's going to get everyone excited over in the chat.
What do you think, Ferrell? Do you think Richardson's like a good second? Like, do you think they're going to give the job to Jones, or do you think they're going to give Richardson another crack?
They're going to give Richardson.
They give Richardson another crack. I mean, if he's on the field, he's gonna like rack up fantasy points. I mean,
they're going to give Richardson another crack.
I don't want to jinx it at this point, but the fact that guy is still out there and the shape that your team is in, that could be a very special pick, Jake, if he makes it that far. Which I don't know if he will.
I mean,
we've ruined it now.
It might be worth the long shot there.
We've ruined it now.
Studebaker's the guy that can really screw you here. And if he makes it that far, and we could get some 26er and 26er crime tonight at the 14-11. This is go ahead.
Oh yeah, I always feel like I could figure it out at quarterback. It doesn't necessarily always work out, but it never really scares me.
Look at the chat, guys.
Studebaker. There you go. Brent already saying he ain't getting Richardson. Brent may not either, because you could add.
This is turnaround as fair play. I was giving the Hammer a little razzing about his 3-4 pick.
Oh, with Evans and Kamara?
No, he took Josh Allen. He said, "You wish you had Allen now."
Oh, yes. All right, so here's the pick that we're watching here. This is Gabriel Gibolino is up. He's got Drake May as his lone quarterback. He could be going quarterback here. He does not. So we know the Studebaker pick here. We know what it's going to be at the 13-11. We just don't.
He won't
know
do it. He was just teasing us.
You don't think he'll do it, Ferrell? He's only got one quarterback. He's got Dak Prescott. That's it.
I don't think he'll do it.
Well, we're about to find out here. Cole Kmet goes off the board at the 14-10 to Lori Wilson as her number 3 tight end behind Travis Kelce and Isaiah Likely. And there it is, Richardson off the board at the 14-11. Jake Valike, 20 quarterbacks off the board.
Jake, you know who it is. You know who you've got to take.
All right, I'll take Tua.
That was the first guy that came to mind.
You know who the other one is.
Tagovailoa is the pick.
I know you want me to take Geno.
There you go.
But he's not.
I mean,
there's a receiver.
I know it sounds great. Oh, yeah, Besh. Yeah, he's great.
There's a wonderful tight end, and Myers is there, and the ad of the rookie receiver Beck. Come on, you got to take it.
Besh,
I'm in all seriousness. What do you got? I know, like he's like kind of been a little bit of a punchline, but what do you guys think about Bryce Young? He had a really strong finish end of last year, like fantasy wise. I know he had an overtime game that kind of juiced some of his points, but he was putting upward of 18 to 20 some points.
I think Geno Smith is the double pick here. Bryce Young could be the home run play. I mean, I have no problem with either one. I just think that Young does not have the floor that Geno Smith has, but I think he might have the better ceiling.
All right, let me go with Bryce. I don't know.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry, Ferrell. I did take Pittman there.
Yes, sir. Yes, you were on your way to immortality.
I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress.
This was good. Go ahead, Jake.
What do you guys think of? I know I'm going to jinx it now, but what do you guys think of Nick Chubb? Do you think in redraft he's worth even taking a? The only reason I was watching a video clip and he's jumping over some hurdles and he jumps up and his head pops through the ceiling. It looks like he's the knee is not I shouldn't say not an issue, but pretty well healed at this point. You think he's even worth drafting or just?
Listen.
He's 30.
I said this earlier in the show. It's a young man's game. Mm-hmm. I have seen players have these really nasty knee injuries, and he's already come back once, right? Yeah, from the awful one. And I've seen these players, and they look good, and in practice they look good in working out or whatever. But on the field, you can't replicate that explosion that they need. Now, Chubb, I don't think was ever necessarily the most explosive back out there. But I'm just you see some of these other rookie running backs that are going to go off the board. And unless they're just day 3 guys that just really need to fall into a special situation, I'm going to – Chubb is fine. I don't see a ceiling there. And I see a pretty low floor. So for me, I'm letting somebody else take him. And if I'm wrong, I tip my hat.
Yeah, and he's not going to put out a bad hype video, right? I mean, he's going to put out a video with,
Yeah, no.
Ferrell,
how do you feel about Nick Chubb for redraft this year?
Nick Chubb, he's still in the league.
Yes. Yeah. And he could actually be – is he a free agent right now, or is he still under contract right now?
In the year that we've talked all of 2025 about the depth of running back, I think I want to go Young here, I think the Hammer made some very good points when he was on. And I believe that we're in a situation this year where you can make selections. You can take some of these young backs and really win with a couple of them. So that's what I would do.
Derek Greer, by the way, pointing out on YouTube that Nick Chubb is a free agent.
I knew Derek would pick me up. That's why, I didn't want to tell you guys, of course, that he doesn't have a team to play for.
But he could be one of these he could be like Kareem Hunt just went off the board to Jason Kalaga here. He could be a Kareem Hunt type guy this year where he starts off the season not on a roster. Which to me, Jake, that would make him # better in best ball, right? Because I don't see any reason to draft him now. I'll pay up for him if he signs with somebody else.
Don't you talk our Jake into another running back nobody likes.
I'm trying to talk him out of it. I
know. That's what I'm saying. You need to, just speed up there.
One last question.
Yeah, fire away.
I know you're supposed to be asking me the questions, but Quinn Allen and Woody Marks. You guys,
Yeah.
you guys like either of them?
So
Woody Marks and who?
LaQuint Allen
Quint Allen.
out of Syracuse.
I believe I like the explosiveness of Marks.
So Marks ended up being a 4th round pick this year, and he went to the Texans. I want to say,
yeah,
Houston. Okay, yeah. And that could be interesting because I don't know how much depth Houston has there. So Marks is a guy that it's weird because Jake, before the draft, I was drafting LaQuint Allen more, and now after the draft, I think Woody Marks is probably the better play. And he just goes off the board. Dan Flamholtz, who was on earlier, the hammer takes him at the 15-11. So I like both those guys. I definitely like Marks more, but I would still have no problem taking a fly. I'll tell you this: I'd rather draft LaQuint Allen than Nick Chubb, for sure.
Yeah, it's just very crowded in Jacksonville, right? You have ETN, you have
Tootin now
Tank,
and Bigsby,
and then now Tootin and LaQuint. So, and they're all like, you know, who knows how the rookies are in the NFL, but the other two are, you know, ETN, you know, despite what everyone says, he's still a serviceable back, and Tank is, you know, he's respectable as well. So it's going to be kind of muddy there, I think.
Yeah, and like now we're just drafting at this point in the draft. You know, you're just drafting players, at least running backs, just based on them needing an opportunity, right? And sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they don't hit, but man, does it feel good when they do. I love it. I absolutely love it.
All right. Sorry for talking too much.
No, you're good. Jake, are you going to hang out with Louisville, with us in Louisville again this summer?
I am. Yeah. Dan, myself, and Stuart Kuhn.
Yeah.
Going.
Big Stu.
He's coming back.
Yeah, Big Stu.
Was Stu there last year?
Yes.
You kidding me? If he's not there, we don't have it.
So Stu was there last year, right?
Yes.
He was. Yeah.
I talked to so many people. I can't remember if I remember hanging out with Dom and Dan on Saturday night. That was an epic night. Way too much beer, way too much bourbon. But yeah, everybody else, it's a blur. That whole weekend, it's so much fun catching up with everybody.
There were earlier confessions by Balky and Dan in the show that you might have missed. There's a lot of things going on.
It was wild, but this all happened outside the KFFSC boundary.
Outside of the showroom.
Yeah. Jake, I will see you in Louisville. Big day for you tomorrow with all the Dynasty rookie drafts with FFPC. Enjoy it. Soak it all up, man, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.
Congratulations on the great draft and Pittman.
Yeah,
wish you had a Raider quarterback.
Thanks, Ferrell. That was for you. See you guys.
See you later, man.
Balky, let's talk about the receiver.
Hold on, real quick, Ferrell. Can you have Michael Pittman on your team and not have a great draft?
Well, it's a big part of it when you get a player like that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point.
Rounds. Now, there's there's some commentary about. Let's just talk some football.
Go ahead, please.
Separate it from fantasy football. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Downs, who's a player I admire. So I want to say that I admire Downs. Downs is a 70 catch ball player and likely to be that every year. He does a great job running underneath routes. He'll average 10 yards a catch. He'll get to a few touchdowns. Here's the problem in the predictions of everyone saying Downs is the man. He's 5'9" tall, and he's 170 pounds. And he is not Tyreek Hill. He's a good speed, get open, run after the catch underneath wide receiver who benefited with the quarterbacks who had to drop the ball off to him. Pittman, I'll remind everybody, hasn't lit up the end zone as a target. And there's a lot of talk about not with that quarterback. They say, who's going to throw him the ball? Well, it's going to be the same damn quarterback throwing the ball to both of them. But that's beside the point. We're in a situation where the quarterback either improves or he gets replaced. Pittman has never rung up big touchdowns, but he is 6'4", 225. And I would take my chances with the addition at the tight end. I'll take my chances with my 6'4", 225 player whose worst season is Downs' best, who played with a bad back last year. I'm not going to say broken back, even though it was, which kind of blows my mind,
Right.
and is naturally looking to regain where his career is, which has always been at 100 catch wide receiver. And so that's why I like Pittman better than Downs, because there is not only is there 5 inches difference in height, catch radius, hands, all the things you want as a receiver, you've got a situation where there's 50-pound difference. Pittman is pushing 225, 230. So that's and he's a gentleman farmer from Indiana.
A gentleman farmer.
Yes, so he's a gentleman farmer. And John Terry asked for a horse earlier.
Yeah.
Officially, we are promoting, with the blessing of our 2024 KFFSC champion and our resident horseman, Doc Hakey, we are supporting Sandman. KFFSC.
Okay. Are you going to hang out with Dizzle and FFPC Alex? I know they're there.
I would love to, but those guys are on a very, very special weekend.
Okay.
And so I remain I remain available on what I believe you would call the practice squad, or I'll come in and sweep up. But they are also in the company of one Drew Maselli, and you can't put too many superstars in one backfield. I think they'll do fine without me.
Yeah, no, they probably will. But I was just curious about that. This is and back to the Colts conversation. I still am blown away by this, and maybe this is just dumb luck. We talked about this earlier, but still, even post NFL draft, in the Big Gorilla, the Mojo on Pittman and Josh Downs, they both have identical 10.07 ADPs. Ferrell. Pittman's wide receiver 51, Josh Downs wide receiver 52. Crazy Town banana pants. Unbelievable. That's how it's going. Kickers are starting to go off the board. Let's talk about Elijah Mitchell here, Ferrell, who went to Lori Wilson with her assortment of Kansas City Chiefs on this squad. Is Elijah Mitchell going to be the starter in Kansas City this year?
No.
It's going to be Pacheco?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I still love
Lori, as soon as I started bragging on her, she went a little bit askew with some of her things. She did well enough in the first 9 rounds that she could take a little while off. But her I wish she would call in and tell us her logicals on some of these.
Well, what didn't you like from her?
No, I didn't like anything after we hit double-digit rounds.
Okay. You don't like Bigsby at the 11.03? I like that.
No,
I like that.
I don't like that. For the same reasons that the Jakester said. Then she went too early kicker and drafted the wrong one. And then you know what I think about the tight end before there was another tight end in Chicago. And Bateman, he's a best ball player, and this is not a best ball league.
Best ball, yeah.
And Mitchell was a handcuff in the 17th round, and I will not complain about that. But her team is so good, these guys may never play anyway.
Ferrell, does Cole Kmet get the Irv Smith Award for you this year?
No, he's a better player. He's a situational player. When you talk about, he brings a lot of skills, and he you've called my hand on that, Balky, and he's done well in the end zone. I don't know what the touchdown count is. If you want to look it up, you can shout it out. But you defended this player, and rightfully so. He would. Man, what he might do with a change of scenery, but he's not getting one.
You're talking about Kmet?
Yeah. 4
touchdowns last year, which was down from 2023 when he had 6, and that was down from 2022 when he had 7. Yeah. He didn't really, 47 for 470 yards last year. That's not all that great when you consider 2023, 73 for 700 plus, and then 2022, 50 for 544. And his sophomore year in the league, he had 60 for 612. 2024 was not a great year for Cole Kmet.
Yeah, 70. So I guess I was more correct about him than I thought I was. I've always thought that Freiermuth's worst year is Kmet's best year. Freiermuth's typical year is
Cole. Yeah, that's probably not all that far off. That's probably accurate. As long as we're talking about tight ends, let's talk about the 2 rookie tight ends that went off the board here.
Okay.
in the 17th round. You're looking at Terrence Ferguson to Greg Chamberlain as his number 3 tight end, and then Harold Fannin, the number 3 tight end drafted by Sharif Abdul Rahman. Which one of those guys do you like better now, knowing that Ferguson, and I got to tell you my Ferguson story on this from the NFL draft, Ferguson going to the Rams and then Fannin landing with the Browns?
I'm not too excited about the Rams situation with Ferguson. But to answer the question, Harold Fannin could be the unheralded beast of the NFL and the steal of the draft.
Wow.
He is everything I like in a player: fast, long, loves contact, even though his body would suggest that he's not a Cole Kmet or a Jake Ferguson kind of guy, but he's one of the toughest players that I've ever seen. He's built and loyal. Everybody, for those that foolishly criticize the current state of college football and the NIL, you should then be a fan. If you're one of those people, you should then be a fan of Harold Fannin, because he could have gone anywhere for big paychecks and he stayed just where he was at the Bowling Green University. So that's one of my favorite players in the league. I wish him well, and I think he will do very, very well, and he'll do it quickly.
I have to bring this up with Fannin. He was a guy I really, really liked, and then the Senior Bowl happened, and he did not look great there.
No.
But if you are a Fannin hater, and that's fine if you want to be, but just remember that this dude caught 11 passes for 137 yards and a touchdown at Penn State. Next week, 8 catches, 145 yards and a touchdown against Texas A&M. So, yeah, he played for Bowling Green. Yeah, it was the MAC, but he did this against 2 really, really talented. How far did Penn State go? Were they in the national semifinals this year?
Back-to-back weeks against very good teams.
Crushed it. 117 catches, just under 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns. Say what you will about how he did in the Senior Bowl and his testing and his metrics or whatever. Dude balled out in those 2 games, and well worth a pick here in the 17th round. So I like those picks as well. Ferrell, Roshan Johnson also went in the 17th round. That was to John Terry. He takes him as his number 6 running back. Let's expand the conversation to the Bears backfield, because Chicago drafted Kyle Monungai from Rutgers, who I don't know anybody who really loves him. There probably are people out there that love him for NFL purposes. In Chicago, yeah. But I think DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson surviving the draft, and especially Swift, this looks really, really good for their fantasy prospects. And I think everybody just assumes it's going to be Swift, but we can't forget about Roshan Johnson there.
Yeah, and fantasy players would be wise to watch what this drafter does with young players, because he's a knowledgeable drafter and a very, very good fantasy player. Now, if Roshan Johnson, if not now, when? That's kind of what I would be willing to do in the 17th round with that. And you see he's gone out on a limb with some Dobbins and some things like this. Ain't got a damn good kicker, so he's got that going for him.
What I'm going to do here, I'm going to switch it over because the Revelations draft has just.
You mean we're going to leave this?
We're going to leave Genesis because it's almost done. And Revelations has just started the second half of their draft, so they are flying there. I want to get over there. Before we leave, Ferrell, Jordan James was the pick at the 1805 in Genesis tonight. That was Greg Chamberlain's pick. Jordan James is a guy that had awful metrics, awful testing, but he balled out at Oregon, and now he finds himself in a situation in San Francisco with Jordan Mason not there anymore. You got Isaac Guerrero there, and a hobbled, I shouldn't say hobbled, but a guy who has been off-hobbled over the last,
You've used hobbled and cobbled tonight, both very effectively. Yeah, I'm impressed with that.
But what do you make about Jordan? Thank you. What do you make about Jordan James in the Bay Area now as a San Francisco 49er?
Sometimes you can just look at the team doing the picking, and you can then begin to understand that you're not taking as big a risk as you thought you might on that player. And that's what we talk about all spring long is landing spot. Oh, well, now, wait a minute. that's a good landing spot. When they took Garendo last year, he being a Louisville Cardinal, I never particularly saw in Garendo in college what I saw him do in the NFL. So I would say that they saw Garendo, they saw things that fit their system, and he developed within it. And this running back could do the same thing.
Yeah, I think Jordan James, like for as many people as were down on him, boy, I heard a lot of people that were very excited about what he was going to do as a pro. So that's something that we'll be paying attention to here.
Chuck Root, who is not connected, our frequent guest on the show, who's not connected in the chat, sent a text directly to me. Says, I love Fannin. He is the younger, better version of Njoku. I love everything he has to say about that except Njoku, because Chuck's being Captain Obvious. I think everybody might be the younger, better version of Njoku. But again, you could argue landing spot has troubled Njoku's.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, who drafted him? Team that has Njoku, right? So you're trying to keep things consistent there, and when you have the replacement like that.
Wow, I'm glad you came over here because this is fascinating. Look what's going on over here.
It is good, and I want to talk about it in a second. I teased a Terrence Ferguson story before.
Yeah, please.
This is not something that I personally know of, but I think it was Michael Silver or somebody had an article about the Rams draft, and apparently they were ready to take Terrence Ferguson in the first round. Now, again, we're hearing this after the fact. They're ready to take him in the first round of the draft, and then the Falcons came calling and said, hey, we want to piss away our first round pick next year to move back up into the first round. Would you be willing to make that deal? And the Rams said, hell yeah. They make the deal, and then they get Ferguson in the second round. So they still get the guy they're going to take in the first round, and they pick up a first round pick next year.
That's a hell of a story.
I'm telling you, Sean McVay and who's the guy? Les Snead? Is that
Les?
Yeah. They got it, man. Whatever it is, they got it.
And they really act like in the draft they don't care. You know, they rent the house, they go out there, you know. It's more of a selection party, you know.
All right, so here's what we got tonight for the Revelations draft. Picking in the one spot, we have RW Squanchy Squad. Todd Stockard has Go Blue 99 in the 2-hole. Fake news real boners. That's Gabriel Gibolino. He's doing double duty tonight. Ferrell, he's drafting in both Genesis and Revelations. Our good buddy Joe Van Gogh, longtime FFPC player, guy who's won more championships than I think I've ever played in leagues. He's insane. The Smokin' Joe's cleaning up tonight at the 4 spot. Douglas Kahn's How Sweet It Is drafting 5th. Larry Jilton, a mainstay in the Revelations draft. His Rednecks are drafting 6th, right next to another Revelations mainstay and Revelations cheerleader trying to get this draft filled tonight. One Vince Staffolino. Clyde Woodruff's Flashers drafting 8th. We got Don Terminello's Genesis team drafting in Revelations tonight. God, I love Don. Michael Zuka's Mongoose is another super talented best ball drafter. Let's face it, he's awesome at redraft too. Michael Zuka's Mongoose is picking 10th tonight. DeLioncourt, that's owned by Matthew Zimmer, drafting 11th. And the final drafter tonight, Reeks Kids, that's Uris Sosa, picking from the 12-hole. Something stood out to you as soon as you saw this draft board tonight, Ferrell. What was it?
Team number 8, and their stacking of the young receivers, along with the Genty Collins draft picks 1st and 2nd, which is exactly what we had over in the previous league. Lamar Jackson going high on quarterback. I don't care for the tight end. I've already voiced that, and there were a lot of tight ends I probably would have preferred. But this team is very intriguing with the. And, you know, it's a team, Balky. This would be your 3rd disclaimer, so I'll say it for you. This is a standalone league. You don't have to hit the long field goal. I won't use any analogy about baseball to win this. So this drafter appears to be drafting to win a contest beyond a 12-team contest, but I mean, he could win here too. I love what he's doing. I think he'll have a fascinating time. And of course, he's got a Raider on the team.
He does, to lead things off with Ashton Genty. I think the thing we have to point out here, though,
he's got 2 Raiders on the team.
This is who's the other one? Oh, Jack Besh. this is through 12 rounds. And Clyde Woodruff, who is drafting in the 8th spot tonight, here are the veterans, the non-rookies on his team. I'm going to give you the whole list. Nico Collins, Lamar Jackson, David Njoku, Jordan Mason. That's it. The rest are all rookies. He has 8 rookies on his team through 12 rounds. Genti, Travion Henderson, Harvey, Scadaboo, Agbuka, Higgins, Besh, and Jalen Knoll. Wow. What do you make of that, Ferrell? Like, when you draft early like that, are you trying to focus in on rookies and grab a bunch of them before sort of like the ADP resets itself? Because it's still the plate tectonics of post NFL draft ADP. They're still moving. It's still moving around right now.
He's got a Green Bay hangover, and he came in the draft and said, you know what? These are the guys I've studied. I'm going to make a splash with them. I'm going to see what I can do with them, and that's going to be my strategy, and more power to it.
I was going to share. I know the Christian and Hicks Team Porkies were asking for some draft stories, and I'll just say Stuart, just real quick, because I know nobody cares, but I'll share this. I was there for every single pick all weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. My son wanted to go Thursday night, and we were at the Hail Mary experience where you're tossing footballs into nets, like you're trying to make them into the nets. And he found out that, hey, if I don't get in line, but I stand behind the nets, all these balls are bouncing over the fence, and then I can throw them back in the other way. So while Travis Hunter is getting traded or getting drafted by the Jaguars, while Ashton Genti is being drafted by the Raiders, I'm watching it on my phone at the other end of Titletown where the draft is going on. I'm like, son, we should really get a spot. And so finally we walk up there, and I had some buddies there, and I was like, we're not going to be able to get up close enough to you. But my son, being the young, impetuous 11-year-old he is, he said, Dad, just follow me. And we weaved our way up fairly close to the front, and we got right by our buddies, like 5 feet away from him. It was crazy. But I'm telling you, Ferrell, that how electric that place was when the Packers took a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in 23 years. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable stuff.
And each year, the draft recently has gained momentum, and I thought in Nashville I saw the best draft that could possibly see, and you guys topped that. It was a tremendous experience for everybody. They call that really the Hail Mary experience.
They call it the Hail Mary experience. Yeah,
I had a Hail Mary experience when I was in the 5th grade when Frank Cash bought a small box of Playboy and other magazines to school, and unfortunately we were busted. And we had Hail Mary experience for the rest of the afternoon. We were kneeling and praying and
slightly different.
Asking for that would have taken me back. But yeah, Hail Mary experience. I love it.
So that was Thursday, which was electric. Friday, everybody deserted me. I think all my friends that were up there on Thursday that said they're coming back Friday, like, oh, my back hurts, my hip hurts because they're standing. And I'm like, no. I'm going. This might be the only time.
And those are cocktail party heroes, Balky.
Right, exactly.
They have your back.
So what I
this group tonight would have your back.
They would, yeah. So what I did, I grabbed my single beer, and as the draft was starting, I weaved my way all the way up to the front of the fence for like the general admission. And the last hour, I was at the very front. Roger Goodell came by, shook his hand. Ironically, the second time I've shaken the commissioner's hand, but he was right next to us for a while. And then I didn't think it could get any better. And then on Saturday, I won't bore everybody with the details, but
you were up close.
I'm super close. My buddy was in town from Charlotte, and he was wearing Panthers gear, and he was getting tips on how to get to the stage. So he got me up to the stage, and then we were sitting 4th row on the stage for the majority of Saturday. And it was surreal. I've been watching this thing for I don't know how many years, and now I'm sitting 4th row at the draft. I could have spit on Cynthia Freeland from NFL.
Well, that's not, you don't want to do that.
I'm not going to do that. She could have spit on me. It would have been fine. And then they had the Brad Paisley concert after. I'm not a country music guy. I'm not a Brad Paisley guy. I'm like, God, I'm sitting 4th row. Never get this opportunity again. I'm like, nah, I'm going to let somebody else take this spot who really wants to.
That's smart move. You were generous and prescient in your decision making.
Right.
Did you meet Kay Adams?
No, I did not see her there. I was closer to the stage than Mel Kiper and Ian Rappaport, for what it's worth. But I will say this, because I decided to leave that Paisley concert, I was walking down the street, and this is a great thing about Green Bay, 100,000 people there. There's nowhere for these celebrities to hide. Walking down the street to my car, and 4 guys in suits are coming right at me. I'm like, my God, fresh off the stage from the NFL Network, it was Daniel Jeremiah, Charles Davis, Joe Klatt, Rich Eisen, and they're walking right towards me. I'm like, and I literally said out loud, like, oh my God, Daniel Jeremiah, Rich Eisen, the whole crew's here. And they kind of nodded. Everybody but Eisen kept walking. And I shook Jeremiah's hand. I shook Eisen's hand. I said, hey, can I get a quick photo? And here's the embarrassing thing. So Eisen says, yeah, sure. And I posted it on my Twitter. You can see it, x.com/Eric Balkman. I posted it there. But we used to, at my local radio station here in Northeast Wisconsin, we used to carry the Rich Eisen show. We don't anymore. And you know who replaced him? This guy right here. So I stupidly said to him, like, hey, we used to carry your show on my radio station, but now I host a show during when you're on. And he didn't say anything to that. I'm sure he was miffed. He should have been. It was a stupid thing for me to say. But then all I could think about the whole way back was how I embarrassed myself in front of Rich Eisen, but I still got a photo with him. It was great.
The truth must sometimes be protected by an army of lies. You need to button that one up in the future. But, I think, I think perhaps you could have invited any of these guys to join you as a guest on your show. That would have been a good thing to do. Ask them to, they obviously had a great time being in Green Bay, and they would like to relive it and talk to the local people that came out to support that. Assumptive conversation and invites. That's the way you get things done. I get that agent in you working. I wish I'd been there with you.
Yeah, no, it's funny because my buddy Josh from Charlotte, he is that way, and that's the reason we were sitting so close on Saturday, because
Josh knows how to make things happen.
He was trying to get his 12-year-old son to announce a Panthers pick in the 6th round. It didn't happen, but God bless him for trying. Okay, we are in the 15th round of the Revelations draft here, ladies and gentlemen, covering it for you live here. The Genesis one was a little bit different. Obviously, as every draft is different here, Ferrell. I'm looking at some of the picks that kind of stood out to me. Breece Hall at the 209 to Joe Van Gogh. What do you make of that? I feel like that's a little high for Breece Hall, the 10th running back off the board here. I'm going to look up the mojo on that. But we were talking about him earlier. I'm kind of down on him this year. Are you down on Breece Hall as well?
I'm not going to say I'm down on him, but I won't be drafting him in the 2nd round. He looks to me a little bit like Joe Van Gogh, who I have great admiration for.
Me too.
And who owes me a phone call, by the way. But Joe Van Gogh, it appears to me to be drafting last year's team with a lot of players that could bounce back. And look at that. He's drafted both Downs and Pittman. And, here – the first team, team number 1, waited on quarterback and pretty much got what he deserves for waiting.
I don't think that's bad. I don't think Goff and Lawrence, I have no problem with that.
Well, no, but you have to be so much. Remember, Balky, this will be the 4th time we've said it tonight. You said it too, and I did. This is a 12-team league.
Yeah.
So, when you want to do battles against, we've got a guy with Burrow, we got a guy with Allen High, both his teams look really, really good. You got a Lamar Jackson over here with a very good team. God bless somebody drafted Baker Mayfield. But, there's moments. All in all, I think here I want to have a little more quarterback. While I would have liked to have had a little more quarterback rather than Spears or Williams, perhaps. I don't know.
He similar to Jake's team. This is RW's team, Squanchy in the one spot. He also went 0 RB here, and he got some of the same guys with Robinson and Spears. I don't know. I understand the need for more quarterback punch on this team, but the way that it turned out, it's hindsight's 20/20. I feel like it could have been a lot worse at quarterback, and I think he did a nice job salvaging it. You have the Travis Hunter to Trevor Lawrence connection. What do you make of Hunter in Jacksonville? How does that affect Brian Thomas this year? Is it a rising tide raises all ships, or is he going to do some damage to Thomas, or vice versa?
We won't know on that team to midseason. I think anytime you do something with what's going on in Jacksonville, you're inviting a very, very up and down year. And that's just how I feel about it. And that's something that I might be making a pass on, and I'll let someone else take the risk. Is that a fair answer?
Yeah, no, it is a fair answer. Because if you are telling us that you're not going to be sure of how that's, or even have an inkling of how that's going to end up till midseason, then the right thing to do is just to stay away.
Yeah, Balky, we see undrafted rounds, but we cannot see the first or second round, at least on my board.
Yeah, no, I can fix that here.
Can you fix that?
Yeah, there you go. Is that better?
Yeah, that's real nice.
Okay, perfect. Well, now we can't see the bottom of it. I wonder if I can make it. Smaller here.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing we had in the first draft, so I'm okay with it.
Okay, I wanna go lower here so we can get these picks. Okay. What do you make, Ferrell, of Team 2? That's Todd Stockert's squad.
Mm-hmm.
He takes Quinshon Judkins at the 502 and then comes back with Dylan Sampson at the 10-11. So he is locking up ostensibly oh my God. And then look what he did at the 1502. He gets Jerome Ford. What do you make of getting basically the entire Browns backfield?
Mm-hmm.
Judkins, Sampson, and Ford. To me, that's overkill if you're playing in a national contest like the main event. Draft's going on right now with the FFPC, or the Big Gorilla. Draft's also going on right now with the FFPC. I think that I would not do it there. What do you make of it when you're just trying to beat out 11 other teams and locking up that backfield?
I don't know, because you might be in the situation of playing a guessing game. Is any one of these guys going to be the guy? And that's what I think we're saying here with these 3 picks is I'm gonna have the guy for the Browns, and is that worth 3 picks? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like his team. I like his receivers, and he's buying in a little bit to what I'm not particularly overwhelmed with his tight ends. He's buying into the concept of what we've talked about is take a shot at the young running backs. He's just put them all on the same damn team.
Yeah.
Blue's on his team though.
Yeah, he's got blue. And I was talking with Addison Hayes about this last night on the debut episode of Insider Access on the Better Sports Network.
Hey, that's a good name. Did you name that?
I did not. That's all FFPC Aiden. Aiden LaCorey took care of that. Okay. It's so funny because Matt Deutsch, who is the producer of that show, and Aiden just talked about it, and they're like, yeah, here are the new graphics, Balky. We're renaming the show. And I'm the host, and I had no say in it, which is fine. I just was like, oh, okay. We're just renaming my shows now without a heads up that we're doing it. It's cool. I'm not mad. I just thought it was bizarre.
You failed to call your agent at a moment.
I know. That's the problem. Okay. The other thing that you can do, this point I was going to make with Addison Hayes, he is of the opinion that Phil Maffa is actually the Dallas Cowboys rookie running back that you want to own this year, and not mother of God, Nick Chubb now. To Todd Stockert, and Chubb is technically a free agent, but still. But he was saying, Addison Hayes was saying last night that Phil Maffa is the guy that you want for the rookie running back in Dallas. Made a pretty good argument for it as well. Addison Hayes writes and records videos for Dynasty League Football and 4for4. Check that out over at the Better Sports Network or any of the FFPC socials if you want more info on that. Okay. Where was I? Okay, you said you liked Stockert's receivers here. Judy, Pearsall, A.J. Brown, Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed. Is there anyone that stands out among those guys? I think Pearsall is probably my favorite here. Good step forward for him, and I think Judy is still being undervalued by people.
Both those things are true. What makes you such a Pearsall guy this year?
I don't think I'm a Pearsall guy. I just think that he got off to such a slow start last year because he got shot. And then we saw him come on and have a good end to the season. We know that Ayuk is coming off the torn ACL. We don't know when he's going to be healthy. Deebo Samuel is not on that team anymore. And we know that they're loading up to sign Brock Purdy. So it just seems like all signs aligning for a sophomore leap for Pearsall. I had a guy God, who was it, Ferrell? One of the Kentucky Dynasty Leagues I was in. Might have been Bob Hogan. Trying to do a Tyreek Hill for Ricky Pearsall trade, and I turned him down. I could not do it. Now I think there were some draft picks involved in that as well, but I'm like, no, I'm getting the worst part of Tyreek Hill's career, and I might be giving up the best part of Pearsall. So I
talking about Jacoby Myers, he did a great deal of work last year on a team with 5 quarterbacks and no other receiving target, and a lot of down and distance situations. I know he had Bowers, but amongst the group of wide receivers, there was no other threat to take that to take the other corner or a safety or the halfback away from him. In other words, with a more balanced team, we might see significant Myers play. The Root's coming in there. That's true. That is. I've never experienced that, but I've seen it on TV.
Chuck Root likes Ricky Pearsall too. Yeah, I hope I never experience it. That would
be awesome. And then Cooper Kupp is just going to be reliable. I don't believe they brought him in to be a complimentary player. And then Shaheed has done a great deal with his physical skills. I think he's a Weber State player. He's done everything there can be in this league, and now he's got to come back from an injury. He's done everything he could do to be a speed receiver and big play receiver, and nothing seems to take him away from that. I like him better for best ball, but you could that's a very interesting bye-week starter for you.
So what do you make of Team 3 here? This is Gabriel Gibolino's team that he is drafting. He's drafting in both. But his squad from the 3-hole, specifically the tight ends, Ferrell, he gets Laporta in the 4th round, goes back-to-back Ravens tight ends in 9 and 10, and then also adds Hunter Henry in the 14th round. I think you can make decent cases that all these guys have good seasons and are worth the ADP that he got him at. But I think all 4 of them, man, I think that's overkill.
Yeah, I think that's overkill too. He might be playing some form of keep away. I can't see his 1st and 2nd round pick.
He went Ladd McConkey. Okay, so his first 3 picks were Barkley, McConkey, Josh Allen.
Well, it's such a great team that he can do just about anything he wants. we had chat room talk about Laporta being undervalued in the 4th round, and I agree that that's a situation between Kamara and Harris. One of them you would think would return to form. I don't necessarily like his receivers, but you can make the same argument from 8th round on that at least one of them is going to give him what he wants. So he's got my favorite kicker. I think he's on his way. But yeah, there's too much tight end here, and this is where he should be. I think, looking at some of the younger players at that position.
Douglas Kahn's squad from the 5-hole here. I want to briefly touch on this. How sweet it is, and how sweet is it, Ferrell? You start off with Justin Jefferson and Drake London as your 2 top receivers. He doesn't hit receiver again until the 10th round. Based on those players he got in between there, Daniels, Jacobs, Hawkinson, Tyler Warren, Tracy Etienne. You good with that? Are you good with Jefferson and London and then not hitting it again until the double-digit rounds?
No. But, boy, those are 2 great players. But, no, Pickens, he knows more about these players than I do. So he must be comfortable with this group. There's a lot of running back action here going on. And you're predicting that Jacobs physically to be worn out and abused this year. I don't particularly agree with that, but
he is a former Raider.
Yeah, if he is, none of these guys are going to replace. None of these guys he's drafted, I think, would replace what he would need from Jacobs. So I'm a little, going quarterback and 2 tight ends in the middle rounds of the draft when there's a lot of really good running backs there. I don't know.
Team 6, that's Larry Jilton's Rednecks. Takes 2 tight ends here, I believe. Yeah, 2 tight ends through 18 rounds. They're both on the same team, Ferrell. Loveland at the 807 and Kmet at the 1607. we don't often think about doing something like that when it's not like a running back or a quarterback. What do you make of doing that? 2 tight ends from the same team.
And a team that's not a prolifically tight end targeted position. I don't know. He's put together some very, very good players here. Getting them all into the lineup will be his challenge. And so, you got your Marshawn Lloyd too.
Yeah.
Getting them all in the lineup will be the challenge. I would have probably wanted one more tight end, but I do like Loveland's potential a great deal. But is he a good dynasty player?
Larry Chilton?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I think sometimes when I see guys that maybe overdraft rookie players, it's a little bit of the dynasty aspect that's
rookie fever
still in their head. Yeah.
Yeah. Larry, I always think of him as a redraft player. Oh no, I'm looking at, he plays a ton of dynasty.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah,
you can kind of see it in the makeup of his team.
Right. Vince Staffolino, our good buddy.
He's a superstar. You gotta understand that.
If there's one person, when I upload the show, the audio version of the show on Friday night, if there's one person I can rely on texting me Saturday morning with his comments on the show, which are unabashedly positive all the time, it's Vince Staffolino. He's always texting me.
Never text me.
But
he can even put it in a group text. Say, let's just include Ferrell just where he can hear, and never text me.
He takes James Cook here, running back 16 at the 406, Ferrell. I have been trying in one of my private dynasty leagues. I'm trying to arrange a Rashee Rice for James Cook trade, and I'm trying to trade Cook to get Rice on my team because I feel like I'm selling high on Cook and I'm buying low on Rice.
I agree.
Okay, that was my question. James Cook at the 406, is that an overpay by Vince here?
Yes, especially considering the other running backs he had before that.
So you would have just stayed away from that. Take Mike Evans, take Tet McMillan, Travis Hunter, whatever. Devontae Smith he could have had as well. Well, no, he gets Devontae Smith the next round. Doesn't really matter. Dude, the touchdowns with Cook last year were so hyperinflated. And I don't feel like everybody's caught up to that yet. So a
lot of that might come from the fact that I admire Davis so much. So, I might have some predetermined thoughts on that maybe don't line up with Vince. So Vince is a superstar though. So when he does it, you kind of tip your cap to him and say, good job.
Yeah, I mean, Vince is a way better player than I'll ever be. So I always give him the benefit of the doubt. I do like the Evan Engram pick at the 707, tight end 8. Again, a tight end premium format. I know he's on a new team, and I know historically that hasn't always been great for players, especially pass catchers when they move on to a new team, new offense, new OC, new head coach.
When he moved to Jacksonville, it didn't hurt him.
No, it didn't. And it was fine.
Ferguson's my guy though, Balky. That's
Ferguson's another guy. The Cowboys didn't do anything at tight end in the draft.
They don't need to. They have Ferguson.
Well, they have who is a Badger, by the way. Yeah. So I get that. I want to move on to your thoughts on Don Terminello's team at 9, specifically his 3rd round pick and his 4th round pick. He goes back-to-back Chiefs receivers, Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. He does not take Patrick Mahomes, who ended up going 1 pick before him in the 10th round. I don't know if he was going to take him there. He already had Mayfield in the 9th, so maybe that wasn't going to happen. What do you make of taking both Rice and Worthy in a league like this that early on, where you're soaking up 2 picks on receivers on the same team that also happen to feature Travis Kelce?
A prolifically passing offense that perhaps he's in that club that thinks that Kelce's contribution falls off. I think if Kelce's contribution falls off, that's actually bad for the overall production of the receiver core there. But that's just the way I think. For me, Baker Mayfield never works, but at the end of the year, I look at his stats and I say, wow, well, look, Mayfield has a pretty good – whenever I start him, it just doesn't seem to work. This team – I'll flip one back to you. Is Jordan Love that deep in the draft, isn't that a good pick?
Quarterback 19 at the 1509 tonight for Jordan Love. According to the Mojo and the Big Gorilla, he normally goes as quarterback 15 at the 1310.
Why
So,
are
yeah,
all the drafters off him so much?
Two rounds of value there, for sure, with Love pairing with Mayfield. And I do think, and I don't want to turn this into a Packers thing. I do think there is somewhat of a bounce back. I was talking with a Packers beat writer at the draft, actually, and I was talking to him about the Anthony Bender pick, this big, massive guard that they got in the draft, and then obviously the signing of Aaron Banks away from the Niners, and then the speed guy in Matthew Golden that they get in the first round. And I said, these are contradictory players, right? You have these massive road graders that you're signing and drafting, and then you get this speed merchant on the outside. And his opinion was, this is Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst trying to match up proof the Packers offense. In other words, however you want to play Green Bay, they will be able to play that way and beat you. Now, I don't know if that's actually what's going on, but that's certainly an interesting take on it from a guy who covers the team. I thought that was fascinating.
I agree.
Michael Zuka's Mongoose's team, we have to talk about him. Zuka's been on this show before, really talented player, won a lot of leagues. I do like the start of this team. Look at all those targets: McBride, Thomas, Harrison, Adams, and then you get Hubbard too. I'm not a huge Jameson Williams guy. I like the idea, Ferrell, of betting on Marvin Harrison to bounce back this year at wide receiver 16. 310 is where he got him. Think about where he was going in Kentucky. Think about where he was going in the FFPC last year. And now he's got a year of experience under him, and you're getting two rounds of value essentially on Harrison. McBride and Harrison together. You didn't get Kyler Murray, but I have no problems with that. Are you also betting on a bounce back from Harrison this year?
I am. And look at the 9 and look at the 8, 9, 10 picks on this team. That's just, to me, that's
Pacheco, Shakir, and Mahomes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's just golden. I think I don't understand. I guess it's because the rookie receivers have moved up, but Shakir has proven to me, despite his size, has proven to me to be an outstanding receiver, and I think we see a big reception bounce for him this year.
I think he's being pushed down a little bit in drafts too because of the presence of Josh Palmer there, rightly or wrongly. I think that you're getting a little bit of a value on Shakir. So I'm Team Shakir with you as well. The Revelations draft, less than a minute ago, just completed, and that will complete our show tonight. What a night it was. Ferrell, I have to talk about, before I let you go, I have to talk about everything going on in Kentucky right now.
Yeah, they're having a horse race.
Yeah, well, that is true. There is a big horse race tomorrow. My buddy Pizzy, who lives down the street from me, he has a band coming in tomorrow, and we're going to have like a block party for the Derby. It's going to be
living, man. That's
it is living. I have I'm in the draft master right now that needs a few teams. I'm in the main event training camp division with some of the people who are hanging out in the chat tonight that just needs a few teams. And then I'm excited for the Run to Daylight Sweet 16. 2 divisions I'm in that, Always Dreaming and the Old Fashioned division. You can compete against me in those leagues and much more. KFFSC.com is where to go. And if I remember correctly, for the main events, we're going to have slow drafts that I signed up for. They pop off as soon as they fill, and then the lives don't start till August. So if you want to get in the main event, Ferrell, right now, get in these slow drafts for sure.
Yeah, we'll have some lives for the main event go off in July, but you're exactly right, Balky. And we're holding the start up on that one. There's still 3 spots remaining. We're holding the start until Tuesday, when everyone who's in the Derby can recover, and everyone who is traveling home from the Derby can get home. And that's when that slow draft will kick off, and that's going to be our first. We call it training camp, but it's going to go off long before training camp starts. Now, Bucky, the best ball Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship with a $10,000 grand prize for the best ball players. We've never had that type of tournament format before, and it's really an excellent one. A great payback through the divisions and through the Sweet 16 teams that advance in Week 15. It's read about the rules, and you'll figure out how you will play for your complete season there, both in your division, and if you're in the top 2 in each division, you will move on to the Sweet 16 at the end of Week 14. So if that doesn't confuse everybody, just come play and do your best. It's going to work out for you.
That training camp division, just a quick plug on this. The Fantasy Sopranos are in there. Many of you play FFPC, have seen Fantasy Sopranos. Bill Hollywood is in that draft. I'm in that draft. Fran Shinnick is in that draft. Stu Keen, Dom Gazzetti, I think, is in it too, right? Yeah, Dom Gazzetti is in it. Yeah, so come join us. 3 teams left to go in there. And hopefully we'll pop that off on Tuesday.
That'll be the first ever KFFSC participation for the Sopranos, and with much more to come. I appreciate Stephen G. and his crew making their plans to participate in Kentucky this year.
If you want to participate in Kentucky live, go to KFFFC.com. And if you can't wait until Northern Kentucky, if you can't wait until Louisville in August, sign up for the slows, sign up for the lives online right now. That's what I'm doing. KFFSC.com. Ferrell, enjoy the Derby tomorrow, man. Thank you so much for hanging out, doing a little overtime with me tonight. I really appreciate it. We will be back at our normal 10 p.m. start time next Friday. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, hanging out with us tonight. That is going to do it for our show. I want to thank Dan Flamholtz, Brent Studebaker, Jake Valike, all the drafters that made this such a fun show tonight. Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. As I said, we will be back at 10 o'clock next Friday. We're going to be joined by 12-time FFPC Dynasty League champ Scott Brzezicki. He's going to talk about how his rookie draft started off, which they launched tomorrow for the FFPC, and so much more. In case you missed insider access on the Better Sports Network on the FFPC last night, Dynasty League Football 4for4's Addison Hayes chopped it up. We were drinking from the fire hose, as Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys always says. So much to get to. We couldn't get to everything, but 2 hours chock full of both redraft and dynasty goodness. We also will be going live next week. Programming note: no Thursday insider access show. We are going to go Wednesday. It's going to be myself and Dave Terpoli covering the Hardway Big Gorilla Draft, which is going to be unbelievable. All the luminaries, all these guys that have been on this show before, plenty other shows. Some of them have shows themselves. We're going to be covering that draft live, pick by pick, and we'll get some interviews with those guys. That starts at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Next Wednesday is when Insider Access, and Insider Access is the former High Stakes Fantasy Football Show, just so we're all aware. The Road of His High Stakes Lowdown makes its May debut. We're going to have our May episode on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. FFPC League Champ, one of the few people that I have on the shows. I can't even count how many titles he's won because it's so many at this point. Josh Siegel is going to join me for that. We're going to get the lay of the land on how his rookie drafts are panning out as well. FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournament. Don't forget $100,000 grand prize, $100,000 runner-up prize in the Best Ball Tournament. That is new this year. FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament. We got drafts popping off all weekend. I'll see you in the draft rooms this weekend there. $1 million grand prize. Early Rampage still going. 7 Bananas promo, always running. The FFPC main event slow drafts started yesterday. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. A $6 million plus prize pool, $1 million grand prize. And don't forget about the early bird deadline. Sign up by the end of this month. You'll get $200 off your first team, and you'll be in the running to be selected as one of the Joes for the FFPC Pros versus Joes competition. Dynasty Startups. Yeah, I know rookie drafts are tomorrow. You can still pick up some startups and play fantasy football 365 days a year. $100 to $5,000 are those entry fees. 15 plus years, 1,800 leagues. No leagues have ever folded. MyFFPC.com. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be Tuesday with Josh Siegel on the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your Derby Day tomorrow. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
And for those of you, as a reminder, who are celebrating watching the Derby, perhaps placing some wagers on the Derby, we're going to support KFFSC longtime player Doc Brandon Hakey. We're going to support Sandman tomorrow. Sandman is the horse you want to bet on. So check that out tomorrow. Enjoy the Derby. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy all your rookie drafts tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. 10 p.m. next Friday is when we resume this show. 10 p.m. on Tuesday. I'll talk with you, Josh Siegel, on the road of his high stakes lowdown then. Be good, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, streaming, listening, downloading.